Terranisaur is back with another build guide video. This one is the Spellblade, which focuses on applying spark charges. Spark Charge Spellblade that uses Mana Strike. This build's been super fun to play. I like it a lot. It's the best Spellblade. What I wanted to do was create a Spellblade build that used melee attacks and spell damage at the same time. It was actually really hard to do. There's a lot of it is just clunky and not good. If you go into melee, your spell damage is going to be bad, and if you go into spell damage, your melee is going to be bad. But this one is super cool. The way it works is you use Mana Strike to apply spark charges. Right here, spark charges with Mana Strike, and when you would use a melee attack, you're going to have a chance to cast Frost Claw through here and here. So you're going to apply spark charges, have a 50% chance to cast Frost Claw. You're going to be crit capped, and then this unique is going to have a 43% chance to cast Lightning Blast on crit with Frost Claw. So we're going to use Mana Strike. It's going to cast Frost Claw. Then the Frost Claw is going to trigger a Lightning Blast, which is going to then apply a bunch more spark charges. So really cool interactions, triggering spells everywhere. You apply a ton of hits to enemies all the time, which is convenient and super cool. Overall, pretty cool, crazy build, pretty strong. This build, like the way I've done it, I'm only level 92, and I definitely have a few pretty obvious gear upgrades. But yeah, it's very strong, did all the content I wanted it to do. I have a gameplay video that goes along with this that's in the description. So I'm going to start off, since we talked about this, this is going to cast Lightning Blast. The other important thing is the Fragment of the Enigma, and I'll go over this more later, but this is going to give us a ton of damage for spark charges. So there's a kind of the main build enabling type uniques. Mostly Fragment of the Enigma, but the Claw is also super nice. So the way I do these guides is I start with the kind of simple stuff, which is the passive tree. Then I'll go into the skill tree, and then I'll focus on the gear after that. So to start with the passive tree, we'll go to the mage tree. We're looking at the basic mage tree. So Warden is really strong because ward retention is really strong. This I deviate. I moved 2 points from here to here because increased attack speed is really strong for this build. We want as much as we can get, pretty much. This could be 6. I think I had an extra skill point, so I made it 7. Yeah, very basic mage tree here. Just a couple points from here to here is the difference. I would say this is like a very 6, 6, 3, 5 is like what you use for every build. So little variation. Rune Masters for protection. This is one of the best nodes on all the tree. 8% less damage taken is really good. Calculated Destruction is insane. 3% crit per intelligence. This is another must-have, mandatory node. We have 150 intelligence almost, and you don't need that much right away, but just a huge increased spell strike chance. Almost, 450 just from intelligence. I really like Wisdom. You get about 30% increased mana regen, which is a fair amount, and this build is really mana hungry. So that's kind of the basics of the spell tree, or the passive tree. The Spellblade one is a little bit more interesting. A lot of the nodes on this tree have to do with dexterity and melee damage, or melee attacks, and we don't really want that. We're not going to do damage directly with our melee attack. So what we want to focus on for this tree is more spell damage focus with intelligence, and some ward on hit and effects. So we're going to go over it. We've got damage and resistances. This is just used for the more damage, the threshold bonus. We've got melee attack speed, ward gain on hit. This applies spark charges, which is really strong. And then this does our Frost Cloud chance, which is really, really good. And we've got some health and chance to gain mana. So you can see some common themes: damage, attack speed. We've got our effects, and then mana. So this is a really good one. Intelligence and ward gain on hit. So we got 24 ward gain on hit, 15 ward gain on hit, and then 12. So it's 50 ward gain on hit at least from just those three sources. So super good, pretty basic stuff. These ones are a little less obvious, but they're very good. So the other thing for Spellblade is you always want Arcane Shielding. Just amazing, just less damage taken, and more per second. So for this, since we're using a lot of melee attacks, you definitely want Shattered Aegis. So we're going to get a bunch of armor, so 80% increased armor and a ton of damage reduction and even more ward per second. So pretty amazing. Definitely probably the third most mandatory thing. So we're going to go into Mental Fortitude, ton of Intelligence, and then this is the all-star for the build. Gives you a ton of base critical strike chance. So with our 150 Intelligence, we're getting 10% base crit chance, which is crazy. We're basically getting crit capped on just this node and Calculated Destruction. We're like getting almost all the way there. So the most important nodes: Calculated Destruction, Prodigy, and then the Arcane Shielding. I would say this is really important too. Those are probably the most important nodes on the tree, like you have to have them. Everything else is kind of not super needed, but it's nice extra stats like we talked about before. So that is the passive tree. Next, I'll go on to the skill tree. We'll start with Mana Strike, since this is the main skill of the build. We're going to have a 100% chance to apply Spark Charge, which is really good. And if you noticed, in case you're having any questions, we have 25% chance and 100% chance. So what happens when I have 125% chance? Well, you're guaranteed to apply 1, and you have a 25% chance to apply 2. That's the same how it works in last Epoch for all of your other on-hit effects. So we do want to get as much Spark Charge chance as possible, over 100%. The rest of this is you have a little wiggle room depending on how you want to build it, but I like Teleporting Strikes. This allows Mana Strike to be ranged. Having it be ranged is so much nicer than melee. You have a lot more flexibility and utility and survivability. Overall, just really nice. But the problem is you gain way less mana. So to counteract that, we're going to go into Mana Drain and Arcanist Blade. And if you're still having mana problems, I would recommend shifting probably some of these points and these points into more Mana Drain and then critical mana. But if you can get your mana figured out with keeping Swift Sap and Rune Sap, that would be preferred, as they give you a lot more damage. So we're applying Spark Charges, we're gaining a bunch of mana, we're attacking faster. This is actually really good because it can stack. So you get increased spell damage for 4 seconds, and it stacks per hit. You attack pretty fast, at least like twice a second. So this is getting up to, a good 100% increased damage over 4 seconds. This gives you a little extra damage. And then I'm trying the Star Guide. I'm assuming auto target is good. Sometimes I can't really tell, but if your cursor is slightly off, I guess this will make sure it gets hit. So that's it for Mana Strike. We're applying Spark Charges, and it has the melee tag, so it's gonna trigger Frost Claw, thanks to Moquat or Moquatil. It's kind of like the axolotl node. So we got 30% chance for Frost Claw, and then 20% from the passive tree, so 50% chance. The Frostclaw nodes, this is the most important, obviously, because you're just not going to cast it without this. The second most important is Volley of Glass and Hand Amortitas. This acts as a 200% more damage multiplier. So you've got 3 projectiles, and they're all going to hit the same target. So instead of hitting with 1, you're going to hit with 3. So a lot more damage. 3 times damage. The other super important one is Spark Artillery. So converting the damage to lightning allows your Shred to apply to this that we get from a blessing. I'll explain later. It allows Shock to apply to this. It allows our increased damage, like through Lightning Aegis, to apply to this. So very good node. The rest of them are pretty much just damage. I took some minus mana for mana issues. We've got 12% more damage, 9% more damage, and then, oh, these are doubled. You will have over 1200 wards, so 18% more damage. And then spell damage for melee damage. I'm not super impressed with this one. I'm not super impressed with this one. Feel free to mess around with other things. This is really good early before you've got all the gear and you're crit capped. Especially if you're using the claw to cast Lightning Blast, you want to get crit capped. And this is really effective. 2% base crit per point is a really good rate. So that's another thing to consider. And thanks to our claw, casting Lightning Blast on crit with Frostclaw, go over to Lightning Blast. So Lightning Blast is going to hit the same target a bunch of times, and it's going to have a 30% chance to apply a Spark Charge per hit. And the Spark Charges are going to do a ton of damage. So you can see we've got a chance to apply Spark Charge, they're going to do a ton of damage, and the way Lightning Blast works is normally it's like a chain lightning from a different game where it hits a target and then bounces around. But this can chain 2 times, and then it can also chain additional times and additional times. So the more you stand there casting, it's going to get more chains recently. I'm not sure if you can actually get up to this many max chains, but especially if you count the double casting and the quadruple casting, you potentially could. So the way it works is you're going to have all these chains. You're going to have 2 here, 4 here, 2 here. So that's 8. And they're going to get divided by 2 to 4. But they're going to hit the same target. So you're going to hit the same target 5 times. And they're going to have, a 30% chance to apply Spark Charge. And then you're also going to have some base, thanks to this, because this has 11% chance to apply Spark Charge on hit. So pretty good. You're going to be, 40 times 5. You're going to have, you're going to be applying 1 or 2 Spark Charges every time Lightning Blast goes off. The last couple nodes, we touched on these a little bit, but you're just trying to get a lot of casts, a lot of hit, a lot of chains, and then apply a lot of Spark Charges. Do a lot of damage. And that goes along with our theme of triggered spells, Spark Charges, spell damage. It's all kind of coming together. So the only skill left, I like to talk about Flame Ward. Flame Ward's absolutely amazing, probably the best sorcerer skill. 30% damage reduction for 3 seconds. Okay, not that bad. We're going to have it last an extra second. Unfortunately, this is the only duration node on the tree. It's going to last 4 seconds. We're going to take another 40% less damage. 70% less damage. Crazy. It's going to cast automatically when stunned. I'd say this is the next top priority. Really good effect. So we've got 70% less damage. Cast while you're stunned, in case you miss something or take a big hit. You're just good to go. Then we're going to get 800 base armor while it's active. So you are really tanky with this. It's kind of insane. And 50% ward retention is really, really good too. So I really like Flame Ward, really like this tree. And we've talked about all the trees, but because Frostclaw and Lightning Blast are both triggered, we have 2 flex slots for skills. Actually, never mind, sorry, I forgot to mention Static Orb. Static Orb's only purpose is to give us Lightning Aegis, specifically the 25% less damage taken. So cast this every 8 seconds. There's a little clause and lightning damage. If you lose 25% of your health, you lose it. So if you lose 25% of your health, just make sure to cast this again. It's going to cost almost no mana, 6, thanks to Ball, Lightning, and Insidious Focus. So you really, this skill is kind of funny. You really only need this, this, and this. So you need like 8 points in the whole tree. The rest are just don't really do anything. The other way Static Orb works is you shotgun enemies with Shocking Conduit and Scatter Orb Blast. But we just don't really need that, but there's really nothing else to put the skill points in, so there's just a bunch of skill points in. You might get lucky and apply some shock when you cast it. But the problem is with this node, it makes it so it just nothing hits ever. So basically it's free, so you get, because we're mana starved, so it's free, but the skill doesn't do anything. So yeah, that's that. So the more exciting ones is we get these not one but two skills on our bar that we're not expecting to. Teleport is amazing, has a really short cooldown, 3.5 seconds, has a pretty long range, and is great for just utility, moving around, survivability. That one I'd say is like very good in the build. The other one is not so obvious. Snap Freeze is really nice utility, and it really doesn't need a skill tree. You get a pretty big range, and it freezes them for up to 2 seconds. It can interrupt bosses. Just kind of nice overall skill where you don't need a lot of support from the tree. The other option instead of Snap Freeze is going to be Focus. If you are having mana issues, this can get very mana hungry, especially if you've taken a lot of increased cast speed. You want to channel Focus for 1 second, and then you're going to get a burst of mana. So you're going to want to kind of cast, then channel, do the pop, and then go around and cast. This can be nice. I was having mana issues, so I tried it out. The build can be very mana hungry if you get a lot of procs for Frost, Claw, and Lightning Blast. That's the skills and the passives. Yeah, we're seeing things kind of come together a little bit, and now we're going to go into the Blessings and Idols. So Blessings and Idols are also pretty chill. The only mandatory blessing is going to be this one, 47% chance to shred lightning resist. So this is going to get all our 10 lightning resist shred stacks, so it's going to be a huge damage boost. This one is just kind of very important. I wouldn't say you need it for the build, but it's going to be a huge damage increase. Whereas all the other ones, the spell damage leech, avoidance, physical resistance, and then frailty. If you get a frailty mod in your gear, you want to take the armor, the flat armor. But those are all really good, but are interchangeable. Just whatever you need to fill out your build is going to be the ones you want to go. These are kind of just the most generically kind of good. So I picked those. The idols, my favorite idol of all time is like this one. So increased health and elemental resistances. I just really like the increased health. It's really amazing. If you had your whole inventory of these, you'd be just way tankier. And you'd have all your elemental resistances set. So you could do that. Fill out poison, poison, poison. I just didn't get a poison mod. If you have some extra things and you don't have to do, like increased armor and health are good. But there's other things too. So to be thematic, I went with chance to apply Spark Charge on melee hit, chance to apply Spark Charge on melee hit, and mana efficiency and pen with Frostclaw. I wouldn't say these are required by any means. If you don't have them, it's not a big deal. But they go along with the build and they're kind of cool, especially this one. You've got Spark Charges and Frostclaw on the same idol. But definitely not mandatory, but pretty cool little additions if you can get those. Alright, and now we're on to the gear. So we've seen we're taking intelligence, we're taking mana regen, increased health, a lot more from the passive tree. Intelligence is going to be our main one. And we're going to get into some of the effects. So we talked about this a little bit already. 43% chance to cast Lightning Blast on crit with Frost Claw. That's the main advantage of the Claw. The Claw is not necessarily mandatory, but is really, really nice. And it has a low level, so 37. I would definitely recommend it to get it pretty quickly. It has a lot of good mods on it. You can see I did and since it's such low level, you can easily get 2 or 3 LP, but I just did 1 and I got a T7 crit multi. And it automatically has 41 spell crit. So this has 127 crit multi on just the claw, which is bonkers. And you get 3% base crit chance, so it makes crit capping really, really easy. You basically just need intelligence, this, and prodigy, and no mods. So pretty amazing item, and pretty thematic and cool. The other main item is going to be Fragment of the Enigma. This, you can conceivably get more LP, but it's a little bit hard to get good rolls because it has wider ranges. This is effectively just 1 LP. The 10 poison resist was just a miss. But it kind of goes to the strength of the build, that you don't need high LP stuff to crush everything. Yeah, so the more damage for spark charges applied by melee attacks is really important here, since it's a more damage multiplier. A lot of our spark charges are going to be applied by melee, so that's really good, but not super important. Spark charge explosion area is good as well. And then, yeah, so we get +2 lightning damage for spark charge per intelligence. And we're stacking intelligence. I've got 146. You could get more, but you also don't need that much. But it's going to give you a lot of damage. And lightning skills. I mean, this thing is just incredible. So those are the main kind of build enabling uniques, I would say. And then the other ones are more stat related. Legends Entwined is going to give us some all skills, some nice little stats. We can put a T7 int in there fairly easily. You get attack speed, which is really good. So overall, a really good ring. And then we're going to use it to get Valatria's set. So Valatria's set reads +1 spell lightning damage per 2 intelligence. And as we saw, we're stacking intelligence. So we're going to get a ton of damage to spark charges, lightning blast, and frost claw base damage. You can just use the crown directly. That's a really good item. And then later on, I do like switching it with the affix. So this acts as a set item. It has the shock chance per intelligence, and lightning pen is the Valatria's prefix. I like the Mystic Helm as well, but a lot of helm bases are really good. Probably whichever one you get, you can use. I went for, intelligence is the most important, but increased health is really good, and then resists are good. I did have unstable core here. I think it's easy to get like a really high 1 LP, mod, so you get your T7 int on here really easily, which is nice. This has really high mana regen. It's got a lot of damage. You get 1 to skills, but it's not super mandatory. I would say this is probably this and Blood of Exile are just not really mandatory at all. Like, if you get a chest with, int lightning crit, you probably want the mana regen chest. I think it's Arcane Regalia is the base. Oh yeah, there it is. The Arcane Regalia. So you want the 42% mana regen is crazy. That's like a T6 mod just in the implicit. So you want to get that since it's a mana hungry build. But yeah, you've got lightning critical strike multiplier. You've got increased health, flat health. I mean, there's tons of really good options for just a normal body armor. But Unstable Core is nice. It has the nice offensive things. Obviously, the Elemental Nova is just completely dead. Doesn't do anything. So the last unique is Blood of the Exile. This is fairly easy to get 2 LP with decent roll because it's only level 48. And then hopefully you can get movement speed, intelligence, cooldown recovery speed, and hybrid health are the best ones. Any of them will do. You also don't need these. You can go with good Exalted pair or a different pair of boots, whatever pair of you know, unique boots you get with high LP is fine. All right, so let's go on to the gloves and the belts. I really like these bases because they have the most flat armor. And then the most important mods here are going to be melee attack speed here and cooldown recovery speed here. So the melee attack speed mod is going to be really good for just doing more damage. We kind of want as much melee attack speed as we can get without too much investment. And then intelligence is the next best, and then hybrid health is the next best. Obviously, the chance to poison is not a real mod, but there's other good mods here. I mean, even cast speed would be good, and then any resistances you need, or flat health or something. This one, the mana regen is really good. You want to get probably cooldown recovery speed, then mana regen, then hybrid health, and then the ward gain on potion use isn't that handy, but it's okay. But yeah, probably get lightning damage would be the best one. There's lots of good ring bases. I would say as far as rings, intelligence is the most important. Then health and mana regen are both really good. And then whatever you need to fill things out, either with resistances. I like this ivory ring this is really high resistance. But you can do the cooldown recovery one, the opal, or the gold one for all ally res. Those are both really good. And finally, the relic. So I do like this scrying eye for the implicit elemental critical strike multiplier. That's probably going to be your best in slot base by a lot. I would definitely recommend that one. The best affixes here are going to be crit multi and intelligence and health are all really good. And then the increased cold damage doesn't do anything, it's just a blank. And then 11 elemental resistance isn't that great, but whatever resistances you can get on it are good. So as you can see, that's all the gear. Oh, nope, I forgot the amulet. So you do not need this increased spell critical strike chance. That's just a dead prefix, which is pretty sad. But at least I've got T7 crit multi. And then the armor shred is super important. Gotta get armor shred. Preferably you'd get frailty on here. But you gotta get armor shred on probably on here and here would be amazing. But you gotta have at least one good armor shred mod. Because shredding this build deals so many hits that armor shred's really effective. The health regen per second here is a dud. Don't get that. But health is really good too. You gotta stay alive. So you've got probably crit multi, spell damage, crit multi, armor shred, frailty, spell damage, health are probably the best mods. And then the bone amulet's another really good base, or this one, or even any base is fine. All right, we did it. Yes, the reason you don't really need this increased spell crit chance mod is you've got all your intelligence stacking, you've got prodigy with a huge base increase, and then you get the claw. So you're getting and I'm getting 13% base with 18% base. You know, it's fine. You make sure you get crit capped, but you usually want to use last epoch tools to just check your crit capped. That'll do it. That's the whole video. I explained the Valatria's set, and the fragment, and the Dragorath's claw, using Mana Strike to apply spark charges, and then cast Frost Claw, which casts Lightning Blast, which applies more spark charges. So pretty cool build, pretty cool interactions. The only mandatory unique is probably Fragment of the Enigma. The Dragorath's Claw is really nice, and then the Legends Entwined Valatria's combo is really nice. And then the rest is basically just a matter of filling out your resistances, getting health, getting armor shred, hopefully frailty, and stack as much intelligence as you can. If you have any comments, questions, let me know in the comments. I will respond to everything. Happy hunting. Oh, and I will have, a gameplay guide in case you're wondering about gameplay. I'll have a gameplay guide video, and this has a last epoch tools guide as well as some build planner links. And I'm excited to see where this goes for the next season after they just announced the Spellblade rework. So it'll be very exciting to see what they come up with for next season. Happy hunting. See you around.